Restoring Illinois to greatness. This is Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Opportunity Project and hosted by AM 560's Dan Proft.
Dan Proft back with Ted Dabrowski, president of Wirepoints.com. And Ted, cover the Chicago public school sex abuse scandal because somebody other than the Tribune has to. It's been remarkable to me. It continues to be remarkable. We're now 3.5 weeks since the Tribune expose documenting hundreds of cases where credible evidence of sexual misconduct was found with respect to the adults in the Chicago public school system preying on the children in the system. And yet you don't really hear the hue and cry. You think you would. It's a little bit bizarre to me. This week, two principals at prominent high schools in Chicago removed of their duties. Sheldon House, the principal of Simeon Career Academy, was removed amid a newly discovered allegation of sexual abuse lodged against an unnamed school volunteer. District officials said that the allegation was discovered during the audit of systemic issues in the school's background check process, meaning they're not doing good background checks, as that was one of the things that the Tribune found as a systemic failure of the system. And by the way, at Simeon, I mean, this is just a few years after that Gerald Gaddy dude. He was an assistant coach of boys wrestling and girls track teams. He got sent to prison for sexually assaulting a woman at a student at Simeon. So I mean, there's just no accountability, so no sense of responsibility. Good STEM Academy principal Armando Rodriguez reassigned from his post after a teacher at the building was removed from duty earlier the month following an allegation of sexual abuse of a student. So now we're doing the dance of the lemons with Armando Rodriguez. He obviously did something improper, perhaps more a failure of the legal duty to report to DCFS, and so they just move him somewhere else. And, of course, the main party responsible for the Chicago public school systems is Tiny Dancer, who has been pirouetting around this issue ever since the Tribune broke the story. If you're a sophisticate who lives on the North Shore, big high society guy, if this was happening in the New Trier School District, what do you think the parents would be doing?
Oh, it'd be amazing. I mean, the parents are already there for minor things. They'd be all over the place. Heads would roll. It'd be huge change. They would not put up with it.
Well, and the other interesting thing too, the North Shore, you have a lot of Champagne socialists up there who very much are of the white man's burden variety, where with at least feigning concern for the Chicago public school system and the minority kids in that system. I mean, it's 85% minority, and yet I don't hear any more raised voices on the North Shore with the elites there than I do with the people actually in charge of the civic institutions in this city.
Well, I think it comes back to, Dan, you've talked about it a lot, and I've studied CPS for quite a few years now, and I think what it is such a failed system that there's no surprises anymore. We talked about this. There's this pattern of everybody being above the law, or there's nothing you can do about that system. And we talk a lot about its fiscal bankruptcy, and I've argued for a while now that place is morally bankrupt. It is morally bankrupt. You have the special ed failures, and of course, the state having to step in. I've looked at third grade reading levels. They don't teach kids how to read, and it's no surprise. That system fails in teaching kids how to read. It's no surprise. It's a failure. You've got the finances. The state wants to step in for that. You've got the corruption. We've seen the COs funnel through. It's a morally bankrupt system, and frankly, it needs to be totally changed. It needs to be broken up.
Interesting. The release that the Chicago Teachers Union sent out on Thursday, or Wednesday, as it were, after the Janus decision was announced by the Supreme Court. Janus backers aim to crush public education. It's those who back worker freedom are aiming to crush public education, not those, including the Chicago Teachers Union, which obviously has a lot of power in the system, that are presiding over Sodom and Gomorrah, that are presiding over a predatory environment for children and in defense of the adults. They're not the ones running public education. Somebody that wants to decide whether or not to join the union is ruining public education. I mean, the context of this, the hubris of issuing a statement like this against the backdrop of a sex abuse scandal, of details of systemic abuse that has gone on for years, hundreds of cases, is remarkable to me, but it goes back to the same thing. If I know I'm not going to be held accountable for whatever I do and however I choose to serve my appetites, then that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to serve my appetites however I see fit. I'm in charge. Nobody can touch me, and I'm going to behave like an animal, and that's what you have going on in CPS.